Higher dimensions aren't somewhere you go, they're how you look. Shift the lens and your life reorganizes. If you've chased certificates, apps, even peak moments and still felt hollow, it's not because you failed, it's because seeking multiplies the seeker. This film isn't an escape hatch. It's an operating system. Subtract the costumes, sit in the observer's seat, and learn to live a perfectly ordinary 3D day from a 4D/5D state of awareness. We'll make it practical. Felt in the nervous system, tested in relationships, anchored in time itself. You'll see why identity collapses quietly, how emotions move cleanly when you stop owning them, and how Neville's fourth-dimensional method turns intention into posture, not performance. By the end, you'll have 3 practices you can feel in your body today and a way to hold problems that turns them into instructions. No slogans, no mystique, just presence you can trust and a dial you can finally learn to turn. You can buy the robes, recite the mantras, stack certificates on the wall, and post a 1,000-day meditation streak, and still wake with the same thin anxiety you had before your first class. The desk is neat, the app rings are closed, your shelf looks enlightened, yet something in you keeps glancing at the mirror to check whether you look like a spiritual person. That's the tell. Spiritual materialism doesn't look like greed. It looks like virtue counted out loud. You start collecting methods the way you once collected achievements, retreats, breathwork gadgets, aura photos, rare incense, a library of activations. It feels like progress because the inventory grows. But under the tidy surface, the same itch keeps scratching. Prove you're evolving. Watch how the loop tightens. You do a practice, you feel a lift, you share the lift, applause lands, and a copyright forms around your identity. I'm the one who does this. Tomorrow demands a bigger proof to feel the same. The tool isn't the trap. The scoreboard is. We mix inner work with outer accounting. Minutes logged, rings closed, breath holds measured, cold plunges posted. As if awareness were a metric you could force upward. It isn't. Awareness is what remains when the accounting office closes. And for fairness, teachers, apps, and rituals can help. Many do. The trouble begins when the persona uses them as costume jewelry. The moment you begin to need witnesses in order to feel real, you've left the room of presence and stepped onto the stage of performance. Some of our deeper material is too candid for YouTube. Subscribe to our free newsletter via the link in the description and enter your email to receive a free ebook copy for a limited time. This isn't a reward, just added value. If you're serious about this path, don't miss it. Now test the difference between seeking and seeing. Seeking says, when I finally get X, I'll be. Seeing says, from the quiet that's already, here I move. One life is a staircase. The other is a room. The staircase life looks impressive because it climbs, new initiations, new frameworks, new gear. The room life looks uneventful until you notice the furniture is placed with care and there's space to breathe. In the room, you can feel your animal body, shoulders soft, breath low, jaw unhooked, while thought clouds pass through without needing to freeze the sky. In the room, kindness comes without choreography, and boundaries land without theater. You don't announce stillness, you inhabit it. The persona hates this because it cannot collect it. It wants a badge, a title, a fresh uniform. It asks, what do I call myself now? You don't. That's the point. The less you call yourself, the more life moves through you without detouring into performance. This is not anti-discipline. It's the exacting discipline of not turning your discipline into theater. Keep what truly steadies the nervous system and clears the mind. Drop what broadcasts credibility. A simple test. After the practice, are you more watchful, more honest, more gentle with reality? Or are you itching to tell someone how watchful, honest, and gentle you've become? If the urge to display is louder than the hum of presence, you're being recruited back to the stage. There's grief in this, and it's healthy. When the spiritual persona loosens, it can feel like a funeral for someone who worked very hard to save you. Honor that. It tried, but the saving was the snag. The rescuer self keeps you in trouble so it can be heroic, The achiever self builds ladders to nowhere because climbing is what it understands. Even the peaceful one will shame your human edges to protect its image. When these costumes step back, you don't vanish. You're what notices costumes. Awareness was here before the first robe, before the first badge, before the first bell of an app told you that you had finally become worthy of your own breath. So run the experiment in the only lab that matters, your day. Remove one identity-maintaining behavior for 7 days. The public check-in, the compulsory cold plunge post, the reflex share of every download. Use the saved minutes to sit with eyes soft and feel the back of the head, the weight of the ribs, the warmth of the hands. When the urge to narrate rises, label it, narrator, and do nothing. That urge is the echo of the seeker. Let it pass without fuel. In the quiet that follows, you'll meet the one who doesn't need to be witnessed to be real. That meeting is the beginning of subtraction. The costumes loosen, the observer takes the seat, and what used to be a performance becomes a life. Next, we'll watch what happens as those roles, achiever, rescuer, even the peaceful one, start to collapse, and something older than all of them remains. The moment you stop performing, the room goes very quiet, and in that quiet, the old roles start knocking. The achiever shows up first, clipboard ready. Be more present, faster. The rescuer is close behind, sleeves rolled, determined to fix everyone if you just stay endlessly available. Then the peaceful one drifts in with a porcelain smile, whispering that you must never be sharp, never be messy, never be fully human. If you listen closely, each voice carries a contract it wants you to sign. The small print is always the same. Trade your aliveness for approval, your truth for a tidy image, your breath for applause. None of them are villains. Each of them learned to protect you once upon a time, but protection repeated too long becomes a prison with soft walls. Watch the pattern for a single day and it becomes obvious. A curt text lands, a bill arrives. Someone forgets to include you. The achiever tightens your jaw and opens a fresh regimen. The rescuer drafts long apologies and volunteers for extra weight that isn't yours. The peaceful one irons your words until they lose their shape. Different costumes, same reflex. Dodge the storm inside your chest by grabbing a mask. Clever, yes, necessary once probably. But it can't deliver freedom because the price of wearing a mask is always the same. You stop breathing like yourself. Here's what most of us miss. Collapse isn't a bonfire. You don't need to torch your costumes or announce a brand new you. In practice, identities exhaust themselves when there's no audience left to clap for them. You stop feeding them, they get bored, and a tiny gap appears. In that gap, you can feel the animal body again, the weight of the ribs, the warmth of the palms, the pulse behind the ears. Sensation rises like weather. Because you aren't trying to fix the sky, the clouds pass on their own. No performance, no punishment, just the honest physics of feeling moving through. Try it in the middle of something ordinary. You're halfway through an email trying to prove your worth. Heat blooms in the face, the mind races to defend. 3 breaths, slower out than in. Eyes soften, jaw unhooks. Notice the compulsion to finish the performance. Label it lightly. Achiever speaking, rescuer speaking, peaceful one speaking, as kindly as you'd label rain. Then, without punishing any of it, take the literal seat back. Feel the back of your head resting in space, shoulder blades heavy, feet honest on the floor. Let the body answer a simple question. Where am I sitting right now? Inside the character or in the booth that watches the stage? From the observer's seat, you don't stop caring, you stop bargaining. You can say what's true without adding theater. Boundaries arrive as clean movements instead of angry essays. Sometimes the wise move is stillness, no send, no post, no fix. Sometimes it's simple and firm, no, not today. That doesn't work for me. The difference isn't in the words, it's in the seat. The observer doesn't run on applause or dread. It doesn't demand sainthood or cleverness. It sees, and because it sees, it chooses. That's the quiet power you were looking for when you were chasing louder ones. There's grief here, and there's relief. Grief for the personas that tried so hard to keep you safe, even when their safety cost you aliveness. Relief because you don't have to guard the mask anymore. When a wave of feeling shows up, shame, anger, a bright spear of jealousy, you don't need to pretend you're above it. You also don't need to let it drive. You let it move through, and while it moves, you remain. That line sounds like philosophy until your nervous system recognizes the posture in your bones, staying with a feeling without being taken hostage by it. The space between stimulus and response stops being a rumor and starts being somewhere you can actually stand. If you worry this is detachment with nicer words, look at your relationships when you sit back in the observer. You become easier to be around, not because you've gone numb, but because you've stopped asking the room to repair your identity. Listening deepens, curiosity returns, humor sneaks back in because you're not defending a brand. People feel less managed in your presence. Their bodies borrow your pace. Teaching happens without teaching, just a steadier field that makes honest conversation possible. You're not above the moment, you're simply not drowning in it. Of course, the spiritual ego will try to annex the booth. It will print badges that say witnessing awareness and hand them out internally. It will congratulate you for being the calm one. That's fine. Smile at it. Label it. Let it pass. The test isn't whether a proud thought appears, it's whether you climb into it. If you stay seated, proud thoughts pass like any other weather. If you climb in, you'll know quickly life gets brittle and you start harvesting reactions as proof that you're still okay. That brittleness is your cue to step back again, the same way you just stepped back from anger or fear. No scolding, no speech, just the seed. What remains when you don't climb? A quiet, serviceable clarity. Ordinary kindness that doesn't cost you. Energy you used to spend on image maintenance returns to the work of living. Making food, making art, making amends. You become allergic to unnecessary performance, including your own. And because you're not so busy auditioning, you have attention to spare for what's actually here. A face across the table, a task that matters, a leaf shadow moving across the desk. Small things regain their right size. Big things stop pretending they're the whole sky. This isn't a finish line. Some days the roles grab the wheel. Good. You'll feel the difference faster now. The practice isn't to never leave the observer's seat. The practice is to notice sooner and come home quicker. That's mastery. The distance between departure and return shrinking over time. Keep the rituals that steady you. Drop the theater that starves you. Notice the breath, the jaw, the back of the head. Reseat. Choose. And as this becomes your baseline, the body begins to learn it too. The gap between impulse and action widens. The surge crests and passes, and regulation becomes easier. That's where we go next. How your nervous system rewires when you stop being the character and start sitting in the seat. Presence isn't a slogan. It's a posture your body can learn. You felt it in part 3. The moment you take the observer's seat, the noise drops and your chest finds a little room. The work now is to make that room reliable, not random. Years of alarms, deadlines, and approval loops trained fast reflexes. Reflexes are efficient, not evil. They simply need new practice. A tight email lands. Heat climbs your neck, the stomach dips, shoulders creep toward the ears, fingers hover over the keys, ready to defend. That's the surge announcing itself. The old reflex tries to move first. Prove, fix, apologize, attack. Don't fight the surge, feel it. Let the wave rise without letting it steer your hands. Soften the eyes. Unhook the jaw. Let the tongue fall from the roof of the mouth. Exhale longer than you inhale, as if you're fogging a mirror no one else can see. Name what is actually present. Warmth in the cheeks, buzzing in the forearms, flutter under the breastbone, pressure behind the eyes. Watch closely and you'll see the surge has a shape. It swells, floats, and breaks like a small wave. Most spikes crest within a minute or two when you don't pour fuel on them. That little window is where freedom lives. We call it the gap between stimulus and response, but it isn't a philosophy. It's a corridor you can stand inside. The corridor widens when you stop arguing with your biology and start cooperating with it. The 90-second wave is cooperation in plain clothes. Wherever you are, cue, train, sync, inbox. Let your gaze soften, drop the shoulders a fraction, feel the weight in your feet as a promise you won't be blown away. Inhale for a calm 4, exhale for an honest 6. On the exhale, let the word allow slip silently through the back of the throat. Keep attention in raw sensation. Heat will jitter. Muscles will want to brace. Thoughts will audition clever solutions. You neither suppress any of it nor act from any of it. When the wave crests, the urge to do something drops even if the problem remains. That is your opening. This is not detachment, it's precision. Reaction collapses reality to one move. Regulation opens a menu. When your state steadies, choices appear that weren't visible at speed. Wait an hour, ask a question, pick up the phone, say nothing. You haven't transcended anything, you've stopped letting the surge make the choice for you. Researchers sometimes call this greater adaptive flexibility. Call it breathing room you can use. Hold a clear difference in mind. Regulation versus shutdown. Shutdown freezes the system and calls it peace. Regulation keeps you present. Eyes online, heart available, even as you decline to act from panic. The body knows the difference. Shutdown feels brittle, like you're holding glass. Regulation feels weighty, like you're holding ground. One pushes people away. The other lets you be near them without leaking into them. Build this capacity between fires as much as in them. You don't learn a new instrument in a lightning storm. Use ordinary moments as training. The kettle, the red light, the lift, the first minute of a meeting. Mark them as practice bells. Each rehearsal records a small success. Surge appeared, we stayed, it passed, we chose. The body learns what it rehearses. Over days and weeks, the space between pulse and push stretches. The email arrives and you don't vanish into it. A raised voice appears and your spine stays heavy on the chair. If your mind wants a framework, keep it simple. State, then story, then strategy. State comes first. Hot state, anxious story, frantic strategy, steady state, clearer story, cleaner strategy. We try to fix strategy and story while ignoring the state that is warping them. Return to the state and the rest follows. That's why breath, posture, and naming sensation are not spiritual accessories. They are the dials on the panel. You'll be tempted to measure progress. You don't need a spreadsheet, your life will tell you. Do you send fewer regret emails? Do you hear more of what the other person actually said? Does bedtime feel less like a wrestling match with your thoughts and more like a body landing? Are you kinder to your own mistakes because you're not feeding a character arc? These are vital signs worth trusting. Support the basics that support you. Enough sleep to let the night do its quiet repair. A short walk without content in your ears so your inner compass can hum again. Light on the face before screens on the eyes. A glass of water before a glass of news. None of this is glamorous and all of it is dimensional. A 4D posture isn't floating above the body, it's being so at home in it that your choices stop coming from threat. You'll also meet edges that ask for help beyond solo practice. If your system spikes hard or shuts down often, that's not failure, it's information. Reach for co-regulation where you can find it. A friend who listens without fixing. A room where you can breathe. Professionals whose work is to widen this window with you. Community isn't decorative. Presence spreads by proximity. Notice how relationships shift when you stabilize. Old dramas run out of fuel because you don't offer the spark. You stop rehearsing comebacks in the shower. You ask for what you need without building a prosecution. Some bonds fall away quietly. Others come alive because there's finally space for honesty. This is regulation in the field between people. You didn't use a trick on anyone. You stopped outsourcing your steadiness to them. None of this makes you a statue. You will still cry, laugh too loud, say the wrong thing, get hooked, and come back red-faced to clean it up. Good. That's the point. Presence grows by being used. If you wobble, you noticed. If you noticed, you can reseat. If you reseat, you can repair. The distance between the wobble and the repair is a clean measure of growth. As this steadiness settles into your bones, something becomes possible that once felt like imagination. The grip of linear time loosens. Slow inside and the external tempo stops bullying you. Choice points that were invisible at full speed appear like side streets you somehow missed yesterday. That is where we go next. Not as philosophy, but as practice. Time is a fourth-dimensional medium you can position within, rather than a conveyor belt you must obey. You felt it without naming it. A first kiss that expanded a few seconds into an hour. A near miss at a traffic light that fit 5 thoughts into 1 heartbeat. A quiet walk that stretched an afternoon wider than the clock. Time isn't one river. It's a field you can move within. When your state steadies, that field opens. Moments loosen, choice points appear, and the rush that used to drag you like a conveyor belt becomes something you can stand inside. Linear time is perfect for trains and taxis and terrible for wisdom. The mind at speed believes every scene has one move and one deadline. That's the panic of 3D thinking. A flat frame with a single door marked now or never. Slow inside and depth returns. What looked like a wall becomes a hallway. Doors appear you couldn't see while sprinting. This isn't magic, it's perception no longer bullied by threat. As alarm drops, attention widens, working memory frees up, and with it, options. Watch it in your next hard moment. A sharp message lands. Surge rises. Instead of riding the story, you ride the 90-second wave from part 4. On the far side of the crest, the scene unflattens. You remember someone who steadies you. You notice you could ask one clarifying question instead of constructing a case. You consider doing nothing until morning and feel that nothing is not neglect but strategy. Same message, new map, a picture helps. Tabs in a single window. Past, present, and future are not 3 rooms you run between. They are tabs you can bring into view without leaving your seat. You can hold a memory without climbing into it, touch a possible future without using it to insult the present, and tend the action at hand while both are softly lit. That holding is 4D awareness. It refuses to be bullied by sequence. Instead of, when X happens, I'll be, you inhabit, from the end, this is how I move now. We try to muscle time with color-coded calendars and app timers. Useful sometimes, blinding often. Your calendar can't make a choice point appear, your state can. Temporal freedom is born in the body before it lands in your planner. That's why 1 honest minute of presence often changes more outcomes than an hour of frantic control. From the observer's seat, you can touch past and future lightly without being spiked by either. Touch the past for data, not identity. Touch the future for direction, not self-attack. Tend the present as the only place your hands can reach. Make it visceral with a small drill. For 60 seconds, move like you're underwater. Reach for a cup, open a door, write your name, while letting breath grow audible in the ribs. The mind protests, then widens. Sensation gets loud. Pens drag, hinges whisper, air on the forearms. When you return to normal speed, it isn't normal. It's roomier. That room is where you choose the smallest next action from the vantage of already done. Not, how do I get there, but standing there, what is the next honest move to make? Name a common trap. People hear time is a field and dodge appointments and consequence. That isn't higher dimensional, that's avoidance. Dimensional bilingualism means you still honor the clock in shared life. You show up to work, you pick up your child, you keep your word, while refusing to let the clock colonize your inner state. The outer schedule stays practical. The inner tempo stays sovereign. Paradoxically, you become more reliable in 3D when you stop being terrorized by it. People feel the steadiness. It calms rooms more efficiently than any speech. From this posture, deadlines stop being cliffs and start being contours. You sense what is truly urgent versus what is decorated as urgent to hijack you. Real urgency has a clean line. It asks you to move. Faux urgency has static. It asks you to react. One comes with clarity, the other with a thin fog of shame. Pause long enough to feel which is which, and you save hours you used to spend repairing rushed choices. Time freedom also softens judgment. In 3D frames, people are snapshots. She's always late. He never listens. They'll never change. In 4D, you watch the arc, the season someone is in, the forces moving through them, the slow turns they might be making when no one is clapping. You don't excuse harm. You stop pretending a frame is the whole film. Boundaries become more accurate because you see patterns across time. Stories become gentler because you understand motion isn't instant. The most practical use of 4D awareness sits in intention. If you push from lack, time resists. If you feel from the fulfilled end, time cooperates. You've tasted this in miniature. Decide a conversation will finish cleanly and you arrive with the posture of someone who can finish things cleanly. The conversation often follows. Decide you're the kind of person who keeps one small promise to yourself each morning and the morning carries you instead of drags you. Not tricks, alignments. Keep it testable. Choose one situation that currently feels like a corridor with one door. Slow the body first. Bring the tabs into view. Touch the after state for 30 quiet seconds. From that posture, name the smallest next move that would be true of that after state. Do it without ceremony. Then leave it alone for a half day. Watch how often the old compulsion to reopen the door tries to reclaim the wheel. Each time you refrain, you're training time to be a field again, not a whip. When this lands in your bones, Neville stops sounding mystical and starts feeling mechanical. Immobilize the body, select a simple end, inhabit it first person, and let the felt sense set the dial. Not to escape the world, but to participate in it from a steadier dimension. That's where we go next. Out of theory and into a method you can use tonight, eyes closed, hands still, seat taken. You don't need incense, a portal, or a perfect mood. You need an honest seat. A body that can be still for a few minutes and a scene. Neville's fourth-dimensional work sounds esoteric until you run it like a mechanic. Settle the state. Inhabit the end. Let the nervous system record it and walk tomorrow as someone who has nothing to argue with. This isn't about tricking the universe. It's about removing your inner resistance to what you say you prefer so that time can cooperate. Start tonight. Sit or lie where your shoulders can drop without effort. Let the jaw unhook, tongue resting soft on the floor of the mouth, eyelids heavy, breath unhurried. Silence the room just enough that your animal body believes you. Then pick one outcome, small and clean, that would genuinely matter. The project is done and accepted. The conversation finished well, the body moving with ease. Don't pick a trophy, pick an afterglow. Now choose a single ordinary moment that would naturally happen after it's already true. The email subject line, all set, the weight of your keys dropping on the table after the meeting, the smell of fresh paint in a room you've moved back into. The sentence, we'll see you Monday, landing in your ear. Here is the mistake most people make. They watch themselves in a movie achieving the thing. That keeps the wish on a screen, over there. In 4D, you don't watch. You are in the scene, first person. You feel from it, not toward it. No violins, no ceremony, just the physics of being there. What is the temperature of the room? What weight is in the hand? What scent is in the air? Soap, wood, rain? What sound sits in the distance? Traffic hush, a kettle, someone laughing in another room. You're not convincing yourself with words. You're letting the body take a snapshot and file it as normal. Let your breath underscore it. Inhale quietly through the nose. Exhale slightly longer, as if fogging a mirror you keep to yourself. On the exhale, let relief leak into the ribs. Not euphoria, relief. The baseline feeling of a decision already integrated, a chapter already closed. Allow a natural thank you to gather without words. When stray thoughts push for timelines and tactics, treat them like passing weather. You're not planning the bridge, you're setting the destination beacon that lets the bridge of incidents light up. I use a simple shorthand to remember the sequence. Assume. Arrange the body still. Select a small, ordinary scene that implies the end. Shift to first-person feeling from, not movie watching. Underscore with breath until relief feels true. Merge with the afterstate. Let it soak the tissues. End in gratitude without grasping. If it's night, fall asleep here. Drowsiness is a solvent. It melts the argument faster than waking willpower. Receipts, not rumors. When you run this sincerely for even a week on one tiny outcome, you'll notice the bridge of incidents. Emails you'd usually skim stand out. A passing comment becomes a pivot. Your tone on a call changes because your body isn't begging. You catch yourself doing the small next thing that the already done version of you would naturally do. Tidy the draft. Send the 2-line request. Walk outside for light instead of doom scroll. No thunder, just alignment. A few cautions keep this clean. First, don't specify the entire screenplay. The more detail you demand, the more you hand the mic back to control. Describe the gist and the feeling tone. Let life choose its route. Second, don't use this to annex another person's will. You can tune your field, upgrade the posture of your own participation, and assume outcomes that honor everyone's dignity. You cannot puppeteer. Third, don't let the scene be a painkiller you use to avoid honest action. Dimensional bilingualism still pays bills. Assume at night, act by day. Let the assumption inform your next practical step. Don't use it as an excuse to skip the step. Also, watch the checking reflex. Is it working yet? Is the mind trying to convert posture back into performance? Set it and live. Each time you pry it open to test it, you take it out of the oven early. You'll know it's setting because there's less argument in your torso and fewer theatrical conversations in your head. The world may not change immediately, but you do, and the world notices that more than slogans. One more calibration. Don't fight feeling. If grief, anger, or fear show up during the scene, let them flow. Run the 90-second wave from part 4 while staying in the posture of already integrated. You're not faking serenity. You're letting emotion move through the version of you that can metabolize it. Strangely, the scene often becomes more convincing after a good cry or a shaky exhale. The body trusts you when you stop editing it. Examples help. If you're assuming a reconciled conversation, don't script their lines. Instead, feel the warmth of a mug cooling in your hands after the talk, the peculiar quiet that follows truth spoken cleanly, your feet heavier on the floor because they're done dancing around the issue. If it's health, don't imagine diagnostic charts. Inhabit the sensation of a morning walk where your breath keeps you company instead of running ahead of you. If it's creative work, don't stage the awards night. Feel the weight of the closed laptop, the cursor resting after the last full stop, the gentle scent chime, the stretch in your shoulders. What changes in daily life when you practice like this? You stop negotiating with every impulse to prove, to rush, to chase. The assumed end becomes a quiet gravity. You start editing your inputs to match your posture. You choose food, media, and company that don't pick fights with your nervous system. Boundaries sharpen because you aren't bargaining for scraps of certainty. Invitations that once flashed like emergency lights become just lights. You also become kinder because you're not wheedling life for proof every hour. You'll still make mistakes. You'll overspecify. You'll check. You'll try to strong-arm a result on a bad day. Smile, reset tonight. Assume again, smaller this time, and let the body lead. Remember the order: state, then story, then strategy. You aren't canceling 3D reality, you're giving it a better pilot. Run the scene, then do the next obvious earthly thing. Let the bridge of incidents do its quiet work. From here, a new perception clicks. If you can inhabit an end so fully that your body stops arguing, you can also look at people and problems as arcs, not snapshots. The frame unfossilizes. Judgment softens because you sense the motion beneath the surface. That's where we go next. Out of fixed pictures and into living tapestries where compassion gets practical and options multiply. In 3D, people look like photographs. One frame, one judgment, case closed. She's always late. He never listens. They'll never change. Freeze a moment and you can pretend it's the truth. In 4D, the picture unfossilizes. You see motion, seasons, stressors, tiny repairs. A person isn't a statue, they're a thread moving through weather. Same with problems. In a flat frame, they are monsters. In an arc, they are messengers. Try it with someone who hooks you. Scene, a missed call, a clipped reply, your body bracing to score the moment as proof. Pause there. Feel the ribs, the jaw, the feet. Now widen the lens. Remember 3 frames. The version of them that's learning, the version that's scared, the version that shows up clean. None is the real one. All are possible depending on state, skill, and season. 3D asks, which picture is true? 4D asks, which picture am I feeding and what would help the next frame evolve? Arc view is simple and demanding. Take a page. At the top, write the name. Under it, draw 3 short columns. Past, present, next. In past, list 2 concrete moments that show capacity, not mythology. Times they apologized, stayed, tried. In present, write a single sentence about the pattern you're actually seeing this month. In next, note one tiny condition you can influence. That would make the better frame easier. Ask a clean question. Change the timing of the talk. Shorten the meeting. Speak your boundary without theater. Nuance matters. 4D softens judgment. It does not excuse harm. Boundaries get clearer when you see patterns across time, not blurrier. Sometimes the next accurate frame is distance. Sometimes it's a firmer no delivered with less performance. Sometimes it's zero contact and a door that stays shut. Compassion doesn't mean you lend your nervous system to someone who keeps spending it. Kindness without edges isn't kindness, it's leakage. Run the same lens on problems. A bill isn't just a number, it's an arc of choices and chances. A creative block isn't a verdict, it's a season. Even illness has rhythms you can learn to work with. Better mornings, tired afternoons, foods that soothe, voices that spike. When you map the arc, agency returns in increments. Instead of fix everything now, you try the smallest next true thing. One phone call, 15 quiet minutes with the draft, a walk without content in your ears. Small, clean moves stack into momentum. Momentum changes the tone of the whole arc. Notice how posture changes when you stop sentencing people and start studying arcs. Your voice drops a register. You ask more questions and make fewer speeches. Sarcasm loses its shine. You stop writing biographies for other people in your head and give them the dignity of a changing plot. You also claim that dignity for yourself. You are not your worst frame either. The observer's seat lets you witness your own arc without shame theater. Yesterday's snap, today's repair, tomorrow's better timing. If you want a bodily cue, use breath as a metronome for mercy. 4 in, 6 out while you look at the face in front of you as if they were mid-scene, not final cut. Eyes soften, jaw unhooks. Ask one clean question. What would make the next frame easier for both of us? Sometimes the answer is practical. Earlier call, clearer brief, fewer people in the room. Sometimes it's inner. Arrive regulated, assume good faith until evidence changes. Refuse to rehearse offenses in the shower. None of this guarantees agreement. It increases clarity, and clarity is kinder than a performance that postpones the truth. There's a trap here worth catching. Spiritual bypass loves the language of arcs because it lets us postpone hard calls forever. They're evolving, we say, while ignoring that the evolution happens without us. Don't confuse patience with permission. If a pattern keeps harming you, arc view should make leaving simpler, not harder. 4D perception expands compassion and precision at the same time. The measure is your body. Does thinking in arcs make you steadier and cleaner, or does it make you foggy and compliant? If it's the latter, you're not seeing an arc. You're making an excuse. We can bring Neville in without turning people into puppets. You cannot assume another person's will, but you can assume a shared end that honors everyone's dignity. The meeting ends cleanly. Each voice is heard once. Decisions land without residue. Feel that end at night. By day, play your part. Short, honest sentences, one agreement at a time. Attention on state first, story second, strategy third. The bridge of incidents will include your tone, your timing, and your willingness to end the scene when it isn't mutual. From people to fields, this is the hinge into relationships as frequency. As reactivity drops and clarity rises, drama bonds lose fuel. The room starts organizing around coherence instead of appetite. You don't chase, fix, or audition. You tune, and the right connections hear it. That's where we go next. How resonance, not effort, rebuilds your circle, and why goodbye gets quieter when your signal stabilizes. When your signal steadies, the room rearranges, not because you delivered a speech, but because your nervous system stopped begging. Drama bonds run on fuel, urgency, rescue, argument, the sweet ache of almost. Starve the loop and it sputters. Some threads fall away without a scene. Others stay and change shape because there's finally nothing to push against. This isn't magic, it's mechanics. Bodies talk before mouths do. Pacing, breath, micro-expressions, gaze, these are the dials of frequency. People around you will either entrain to your steadier tempo or bounce off it. Either outcome is honest. Think of frequency as the tone of your field, the mix of your baseline state, regulated or braced, your implicit expectations, cooperative or suspicious, and your subtle behaviors, interrupting, waiting, scanning, softening. No incense required. A regulated body lengthens the exhale, widens the eyes focus, drops the shoulders by a few millimeters. Others borrow that pace automatically. It's called co-regulation in plain science, not mysticism. You've felt the opposite too. A hurried room that makes you clip your sentences and reach for your phone. Same principle, different signal. Because the field leads, strategies change. You stop convincing and start finding. You stop auditioning and start tuning. You stop collecting people like certificates and let resonance do slower, kinder sorting. That's why goodbye gets quieter when your signal stabilizes. The connection that fed on friction can't find purchase. It dissolves like foam. The one that ran on mutual steadiness gets stronger because there's less noise to fight through. You're no longer negotiating your value with anyone's nervous system, not proving, not soothing, not promising to be small. Run a simple resonance audit for a week. Before you accept a plan, hire a person, or enter a room, ask your body 2 questions. Open or closed? Heavy or brittle? If your breath deepens and your chest feels heavier in a comforting way, that's open. If your jaw hikes and your breath gets busy, that's closed. Adjust by 20% instead of 100%. Shorten the meeting, move the coffee, say, let's try an hour and decide, or choose not to step in at all. Tiny adjustments change trajectories because frequency is cumulative. One cleaner no can save 3 messy maybes and a week of recovery. Boundaries become practical when the field is clear. You don't need essays, you need edges. There are only 3 kinds to practice most days. Time, when things start and stop. Attention, what conversations you will, much or won't host. And access, how people reach you and how fast you respond. Deliver them with low heat. Simple sentence, calm tone, repeated once or twice. High heat boundaries are theater. Low heat boundaries are architecture. Architecture lasts longer than applause. This isn't a license to upgrade yourself and demote everyone else to low vibe. That's just the spiritual persona buying new vocabulary. Precision beats superiority. Name behaviors, not identities. Frequent last-minute changes drain the project. I need 24 hours notice or we move the task. I won't discuss other people's lives when they're not here. I'm not available for calls after 7. Send a message and I'll answer in the morning. You'll feel the difference in your body the moment you say it. Less fizz, more ground. Service by presence looks dull from the outside and feels like sanity from the inside. You walk into a family dinner and remove urgency from the table. You eat. You listen. You pass the salt. You refuse to referee. You sit in a meeting and stop making faces that accidentally agree to things. You let silence do a minute of work before the clever line walks in. People surprise themselves around you. They hear what they're saying. They end earlier. They apologize without being cornered. Teaching without teaching. There's no sermon, there's a steadier field. You'll still meet the old rescuer tugging your sleeve. It's your job to fix the vibe. It isn't. Co-regulation is not self-erasure. You can be warm without absorbing, present without performing, generous without leaking. If someone's storm keeps blowing your roof off, the loving move may be to step outside until the weather changes or to build a sturdier roof that their wind can't reach. No is not a refusal of love. It's the shape love needs to keep from fraying. The internet complicates this because it's built to hijack fields at scale. Audit inputs like you audit relationships. Unfollow accounts that turn your body into glass. Mute threads that keep you rehearsing comebacks in the shower. Add sources that lower your shoulders by a centimeter and raise your curiosity by a notch. Frequency stacks. Food, light, movement, art, sleep, laughter. The way you hold your phone, the way you hold your breath. Change 5 small things and the room you carry changes. Invitations become cleaner when you stop bargaining. You don't dangle, hint, or overpromise. You say, I'm doing X at Y time. Join if it fits. Clear start, clear stop, clear purpose. Some people will love the clarity. Some will ask you to be softer, longer, later. You can hold the line without a monologue. If a connection requires you to be perpetually malleable, it's asking for your nervous system as rent. Pay once, Notice how expensive it is. And then move. Repair becomes simpler too because frequency carries the apology before words do. I snapped. I'm sorry. Here's the part I see. Next time I'll pause before replying. No self-flagellation, no counter-accusation, consequence where appropriate, grace where possible, and a return to ordinary pace. We're not building saints. We're building humans who can stay in the room without catching fire. You'll catch yourself labeling energy vampires. Careful. We're all vampires on a bad day. The question is not who's pure, it's who takes responsibility when they leak. Keep the ones who do. Step back from the ones who won't. Leave the door open for the day they learn, but don't stand in the draft. As coherence replaces appetite, attraction shifts from hunger to fit. You'll recognize the new connections by 3 quiet markers. Plans hold without babysitting. Your body doesn't brace before seeing them. Conversations end with energy to spare. You'll also notice a different gravity around work. Clients who want miracles yesterday slide away. Partners who value process and clarity stay. The signal that once looked less exciting turns out to be sane, durable, and strangely fun. All of this sounds tidy until a real problem arrives. Then frequency shows its worth. A crunch hits, money tightens, timelines collide, someone you love gets sick. Old patterns will beg for the wheel, chase, fix, perform. The shift isn't that life stops throwing weather. It's that you stop becoming the weather. You live bilingually, fully engaged in 3D, calls, calendars, care, while seated in 4D, no identity panic, no theater. Problems stop being verdicts and become instructions. That's where we go next. How crises become diagnostics, how posture turns why me into what now, and how 2-lane living keeps you both grounded and free. A real test arrives the way weather does, uninvited and indifferent. Money tightens. Timelines collide. Someone you love needs you now. The body surges and the old roles sprint for the wheel. The achiever wants to outrun the storm with tasks. The rescuer wants to overpromise. The peaceful one wants to pretend nothing is wrong. This is where the posture you've been building stops being pretty and starts being practical. The point isn't to float above the facts. It's to stop becoming the weather so you can respond with clean hands and a steady spine. Dimensional bilingualism means you live on 2 lanes at once. On the 3D lane, you name the facts, make calls, move numbers, draw edges, and show up to the appointments that keep life intact. On the 4D lane, you stay in the observer's seat. Keep the breath long and refuse to let the situation write your identity. Both lanes, same you. The shift is simple and radical. From why me to what now. Problems that once felt like verdicts become diagnostics, each carrying instructions for reorganizing at a higher order. Run it through a scene. The invoice is past due and the bank balance is low. In 3D, you open the ledger, call the client, renegotiate terms, cut non-essentials for the month, and schedule 2 blocks for revenue work instead of doom scrolling. In 4D, you assume the end of stability before sleep. Not a lottery fantasy, just the felt afterstate of bills paid on time and the body no longer bracing. In the morning, you move as the person whose bills get paid. Tone steady, asks clean, boundaries low heat. The bridge of incidents shows up as ordinary grace. An email answered, a referral you almost ignored, a fee you decide to charge that you've been postponing. None of it is magic. It's alignment you can feel in your ribcage. Or take conflict. A conversation goes sideways, voices snag. Old you hunts for a winner, rehearses courtroom speeches, or collapses into apology to end the discomfort. 2-lane living looks different. State first, 90-second wave while the other person finishes their sentence. Story second. What did I actually hear, not what did I assume? Strategy third. 1 clean sentence that moves the scene forward or ends it for today. You might still say the hard thing, but you won't add theater to buy relief. You will leave room for both of you to be human and still make a decision. The nervous system keeps the lanes honest. When the surge rises, you don't lecture it with philosophy. You widen the corridor you practiced in part 4. It's not stoicism, it's stewardship. You recognize that fear, anger, and grief are energies to be metabolized, not identities to inhabit. You let feeling pass through the version of you who can hold it. The body trusts you when you stop using it as a stage for the character's speech. Two-lane days have a rhythm. Morning begins with a brief return to the seat. Eyes soft, jaw unhooked, breath a little longer out than in, long enough to feel like a human before you become an employee, a partner, a parent. If there's a live problem, you touch the after state for 30 seconds so the dial is set. Then you do one ordinary thing the already done version of you would do next. Afternoon is for earthwork, calendars, kitchens, care, calls. Mini resets are sprinkled like mile markers. Lift your gaze to the horizon for 10 seconds. Inhale 4, exhale 6, drop your shoulders a centimeter. Evening is for review without punishment. What worked, what wobbled, where did I leave the seat, how quickly did I return? Watch for spiritual ego here more than anywhere. Look how calm I am is a subtler panic than shouting. Serenity becomes a mask the moment it's used to avoid truth. If you owe money, calmness does not erase the debt. It makes the call possible. If you broke a promise, poise does not absolve repair. It makes the apology clean. If your boundary is required, gentleness is not an excuse to be vague. It makes the no straightforward. Sitting in the observer's seat doesn't mean sitting out of your life. It means you stop bargaining with reality and start participating without theater. You'll know two-lane living is landing when your attention returns from catastrophizing to craftsmanship. You will make fewer messes, and when you do make one, you'll clean it sooner. You'll spend less time arguing with reality and more time arranging it. Instead of pushing possibility around with tired speeches, you'll let consequence teach you without taking it as a personal insult. The measure isn't perfection. It's the shrinking distance between the wobble and the repair. Even your language changes, from always and never to today and next time. Sometimes the instruction in the problem is to become heavier. You slow your speech. You do one thing to completion. You stop asking 5 people for a 6th opinion. Sometimes the instruction is to become lighter. You let go of the plan that was about image. You delete the paragraph that argued too hard. You end the meeting at 40 minutes because it's already done. Problems are elegantly blunt. They tell you where the structure can't carry weight and where your posture is still negotiating with fantasy. Do not do this alone if you don't have to. Co-regulation multiplies capacity. A friend who listens without fixing is a bridge of incidents in human form. A walk in green light is not a luxury, it's a tuning fork. Good food, sunlight, water, sleep, these aren't self-care stickers. They're the valves that keep the system from flooding when pressure rises. Dimensional bilingualism honors biology as much as metaphysics. A body that feels safe gives you options your philosophy cannot provide on its own. Edges will remain. You'll misread a signal and move too fast. You'll hold a pose too long because it looked wise. You'll overassume and underact, or the reverse. Fine. Adjust. The point of bilingualism isn't to become flawless. It's to become fluent. Fluency means you can switch lanes on purpose. Full engagement when action is called for. Full stillness when patience is cleaner. Swift repair when you miss. And an end to the self-story that turns every correction into shame. None of this immunizes you from pain. Grief will still fold you. Illness will still ask more than you think you have. Rejection will still sting. Two-lane living isn't an escape hatch. It's the way you stay human when escape would cost you your life. You hold the hand. You pay the bill. You rest when resting is the bravest move, and you continue to assume the end that honors everyone's dignity. Quietly, without fanfare, you become the person people call when the wind rises. Not because you fix their weather, but because you don't become it. Live like this long enough and the change looks invisible from arm's length. Up close, it's unmistakable. Rooms are quieter around you. Work is simpler. Fewer apologies begin with, "Sorry for the novel." The people who grow near you have less need to audition. The ones who don't, drift. Culture doesn't change by slogans, it changes by bodies that refuse to be bullied by clocks, appetites, or storms. That's the silent revolution we'll land in next. Purpose is presence, service without theater, and the ordinary day lived from a steadier dimension. Revolutions you can trust rarely arrive with drums. They arrive at breakfast when you don't bite the hook. On the commute when you let a stranger merge and the day doesn't have to fight. In a meeting, when you say the necessary sentence and stop, the signal isn't a slogan, it's your field. Spacious, sober, radically present humans create pressure the culture can't absorb with outrage or applause. You become hard to market to and easy to collaborate with. The algorithms that feast on panic starve because you stop feeding them your attention. The rooms you enter grow quieter, not because you demand silence, but because reactivity can't find a match. Purpose gets simpler when you stop auditioning for it. It isn't a title or a brand, it's the quality of attention you bring to what's within reach. You make breakfast as if the kitchen were a small temple and somehow the day respects you. You return an email without subtext and the thread ends instead of breeding. You step into sunlight before headlines and your nervous system votes for a world it can actually inhabit. Presence, repeated, becomes a craft. Craft creates outcomes that self-help speeches only describe. Cleaner work, steadier homes, lighter friendships, fewer avoidable fires. Service by presence looks unremarkable on film because the camera loves spectacle. But watch it in a living room and it's unmistakable. Someone arrives braced, you don't match the pace. Someone starts the old theater, you don't buy tickets. Someone needs to be heard. You put your attention where their breath is, not where their story is loudest. Without making a show of it, you remove urgency from the table and people discover they can think again. A child calms because your eyes did. A partner stops defending because there's nothing to defend against. A team lands a meeting early because you weren't secretly performing for a scoreboard. Keep your anchors small and stubborn. Once a week, drop one identity maintenance behavior. Public self-congratulation disguised as accountability. The reflex to overshare a private win. The habit of rescuing to feel useful. Replace it with one presence maintenance behavior. More sleep than your persona thinks is productive. Sun on your face. Before your phone. A 5-minute sit between tasks. 10 slow breaths before you speak. None of this is glamorous enough for a reel. All of it is dimensional. The dial steadies, the seat returns, and the scene you inhabit writes fewer debts for you to pay later. Humility keeps the signal clean. The spiritual ego will try to build a monument from your stillness and charge admission. Decline the project. Let the work stay ordinary. Surrender, then surrender the identity built around surrender. Be suspicious of the part that wants to be known as the calm one. Keep returning to the body. Jaw soft, breath low, eyes kind. Keep returning to the human scale. Clean rooms, clear language, honest repair. Keep returning to service. Not performance for applause, but the unseen adjustments that leave people more themselves than when they arrived. How do you know the revolution is real? Fewer unnecessary comebacks rehearsed in the shower. Fewer sentences that begin with always and never. More boundaries delivered with low heat. Fewer apologies written as novels. Your circle changes shape without public trials. The news can pass through you without colonizing your nervous system. Money conversations lose their shame theater. Projects end closer to on time because you aren't bargaining with fantasy. Homes get quieter. Work gets saner. Nothing flashy, just a cumulative drift towards coherence that refuses to be reversed by a headline. If you've traveled this far with us, don't miss what we share off-platform. Some of our fieldwork is too candid for YouTube. Join our free newsletter via the link in the description and enter your email to receive our ebook for a limited time. This is not a reward. If you're serious about this path, skip the regret later and take 30 seconds now. If you feel this on a deep level, comment, "I get the code."